I just want to take a video of this thing before I took it apart. So this is an automated sorting device that I had to build for second year engineering design 2 course. Basically we had a course laid out which was 3 trees, and they all had different colored fruits on them. The fruits were different sizes. There was like limes, lemons, and mangoes. Essentially I had to build a device that would sort those fruits and put them in a specific area. So basically I've got a platform here that will rotate to the left or the right. I'll do it with my good hand. Or the right, and then or the center, and then it'll tip its contents over depending on what color it sees. So the way it sees the color is this little Sunfounder color sensor. So basically what it'll do is I've programmed the different like RGB levels of the different fruits to be read by this. When it reads what it needs, goes to the Arduino. The Arduino, you know, just in my code, it'll just look at those values and compare them, and if they're the right values, it'll, you know, execute the bit of code that's needed. So, you know, for example, this highlighter actually to the sensor in the lighting conditions I have in on my kitchen table here, it thinks it's a lime, so I'll just demonstrate it. So if I, depending on there, so it thinks it's a lime. I've actually put an RGB LED down here. It'll light up green when there's a lime being triggered. Just makes it easier for me to tell what's going on. So when it sees a lime, it'll rotate it to the lime section, and then it'll dump its contents over there, come back, and then reorient the platform straight ahead. The motors we're using, they're not servos really. They're from a Vex Robotics kit. So one of them's there that will rotate this platform back and forth. I'll explain that jittering in a second. And then there's another motor mounted down here where this whole platform just pivots on. These weights are just to balance it out. These weights are to keep it from tipping over, basically. This whole thing was just tie wrapped to the box, because the box is basically just a big box around here, and then on the diagonals there are the different areas that fruit gets dumped into. I was hoping that this might look like well, on the camera it looks yellow, but it's actually like neon green. Yeah, I don't think that's going to do anything, but anyway, it's because it's calibrated to a different room. The sensor problems I had with that were basically it's very sensitive to different lighting conditions, so that's why I have to have the fruit roll right over top of it. So the bottom of this thing is kind of tapered that way, and I've rounded off the corners of this because our robot has to basically dump the fruit into this. So I want it to be nice and big for him, so it'd be easier for him to control it and bring it in, because that's just piloted, but this has to be completely automated. So essentially what I've got, I guess I can use this. So what that'll do is it's tipping the contents. If it was a smaller fruit, it has a tendency to kind of get stuck in the corners, maybe, depending. And also the leveling of this platform is the biggest design flaw I have with the whole thing, because it needs to stay level. That's why this like bar is here, just to make sure it has something solid to hit up against, so it's close to level. But it has a tendency to drift, just because I basically got like one screw holding it in there, a threaded bolt. I don't know if you can see it right in here. And it has a tendency to kind of drift once it's been on for a while. But I mean, what you gonna do, man? You're pressed for time. You gotta make it. So anyway, yeah, what it'll do is it'll just give this thing a little knock every 10 scans. If it doesn't scan something that it likes, like, you know, oh, I thought that was a mango. Okay, cool. So that's just gonna dip it forward because the mangoes are right ahead. But if it doesn't see something, then what it'll do is just jostle the tray like that. And then that has a tendency to let the fruits kind of roll around and find the center. So anyway, that's basically how it is. I mean, I'm just running all the code off of an Arduino Uno. I've got the whole thing powered with the 9 volts. The motors get the 9 volts beforehand, and then the rest of the power just goes into the Arduino to power it. And then it sends its 5 volts up to the sensor, which, you know, lights the lights and lights this LED and whatnot. The sensor itself has 8 pins. I'm only using 7. 4 of the pins, well, sorry, the first 4, they're split into 2 groups. So there's set pins for the frequency. So what it does is it's just looking at the light frequency of it, and you can just set the scaling of that based on, you know, how much data you want from it. I just set it to 100% scaling because I just have like a plus or minus 1 in my code to, you know, just, it's not going to read consistently every single time. There's some give to it, right? And that sees it as green. The light in the room really throws it off. But anyway, so the set pins will basically set the frequency scaling. There's another 2 set pins which tell it, you know, what color to scan. So there's like red, blue, and green filters. There's essentially, in that little tiny, in there, there's I don't know exactly how many, but there's just a bunch of surface mount photodiodes. Some of them have like red filters, blue filters, green filters on them. That's essentially what it's doing to get their RGB values. Sunfounder is the manufacturer of that. Forget the exact specifications of it. It's got a part name. It's like a generic kind of color sensor. But it's, if you're going to use one, I suggest like making everything around it dark, or the pin I'm not using is the LED pin. I believe I can just like ground those off so they don't light up. You know, then it's more dependent on the ambient light source, I guess. So anyway, yeah, I just figured I'd document this before I took it apart, because all of these VEX parts, well, these parts are from a VEX Robotics kit, so I need to return them all. I mean, that's my Arduino. This is all mine here, so I guess I could keep it, but I figured I'd take a video of the whole thing kind of working, and just for the, you know, highlight reel, or I guess. I mean, there's not much to write home about it, but I don't know. It won, so our group won the competition. Although the sorter, I think, is kind of underwhelming. Like I said, the biggest flaw is getting that bed level. Has a tendency to drift because of that screw under there. So, I mean, basically, when I start the competition, I just make sure that that's, you know, straight up and down, more or less. But yeah, it's kind of tricky. So yeah, because this is basically the only thing holding this on is the shaft of that motor, that axle, and that motor's like got some play in it anyway. So, you know, I could do a lot to change it, or maybe even just come up with another thing. But the problem is time. I probably spent way too much time just soldering this. I could have left it as a breadboard, but I didn't want, you know, the day of the competition for a wire to get pulled, and then maybe, you know, trying to pull my hair out in rushed fashion to make sure like I got the right wire connected back up. So anyway, but we won, so that's got to say something. So now I need to cut all this apart and get that sensor out of there, because that's not mine. Take all these parts out and turn these weights and all these robotics parts, and then I can keep this if I want. And I'm certainly keeping this, because I plan to do a lot of that over the summer if I can. Anyway, hope you like it. Have a good one.